and welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick, with the City of Hampton's Communications and Marketing Department. And today, even though we're in the studio, we're going to be talking about the outdoors. It's spring, leading in towards summer, and there's a lot of things we can do in our yards and our gardens to help us prepare. And Rhonda Graves, one of our master gardeners, is here with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see you brought stuff. That always makes it more fun when we have things we can look at.
It makes it a lot easier to talk about, too.
Right, right. Well, so containers, I think those are one of the ways that people can manage a garden without it having to manage them.
Exactly.
I know it's working for me. I limit myself every year as to what I can plant because I just know I can't take care of everything. But there are some things you want. You want to be able to go out and pick it and eat it right then. There are other things you can get at the farmer's market that are just about as good as what you can grow. But my bottom line is tomatoes. I have to have, fresh tomatoes, and it makes a difference.
It does, and that's actually something you can do in a container, a 5-gallon bucket. There are lots of varieties, patio-sized tomatoes. You can choose, if you look at the plant, a determinate or an indeterminate tomato.
What's that mean?
Yeah, determinate means it kind of stops growing, it makes its tomatoes. Indeterminate means it keeps on growing. It's basically a vine. So if you don't have the space for an indeterminate, you don't want to stake it, you should probably choose a patio size or a determinate variety.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
And also little tomatoes, you get kind of more for your bank because you can just go out there, grab
constantly.
one.
Yeah, I like those.
They might not even make it in the house.
You know what? Then the birds don't get to those as much.
That's
the
true.
big red tomatoes, the birds see, they come get. The little ones I can usually sneak past them.
And sometimes I think I plant the different colored ones too. I think they're not as attracted to the yellow ones. Yeah. So.
Okay, so in a container, what have you brought? Obviously, you've been working ahead. There's nothing in my garden yet, but you've been planting. Did you start these from seed?
I did. I just mixed a bunch of different leaf lettuce, spread them in there, and as you can see, I kind of did rows, but not really. They really need to be thinned right now, but if you go to the grocery store, that would be what you call a microgreen. That's it. I highly recommend a salad spinner, so you're going to get a little dirt on there. You might occasionally have a little bug in there.
Right.
Yeah. So, but you thin that out, and of course they'll get bigger, and you can pick off the edges, and that'll last for quite a while. And you can put it in a shady spot. If it gets too hot, it might want to try to bolt and go to flower.
That's what happens to my lettuce every year. It gets a little bit ahead of me. Probably I started too late. It really needs an early start in Tidewater.
And that's the good thing about a container, because you can move it to a cooler place, to a shadier space. In the afternoon when you're getting that hot sun, move it into the shade so it doesn't get so hot. And
that's a good idea.
Keep it watered.
Okay.
And another thing you can do with a container is every time you water, and you probably want to check it every day in really hot weather, definitely every other day, you're going to be washing away all those nutrients in the soil. So probably go ahead and fertilize probably every 2 weeks, or you can half the solution and kind of fertilize it weekly. So
now, is there an official recommendation on vegetable fertilizer, or people should?
There are different ones out there. There are organic ones. There are your standard Miracle-Gro. I would probably go to one of the nurseries and just recommend what's best for vegetables. Yeah, and there are things specifically for tomatoes and things like that. But your soil is really important when you put it in there. If you're doing a mix in a container, you probably want to do a slow release fertilizer so that over the months it's going to release slowly, and then you can supplement that with the liquid fertilizer. So.
And if you have a container, well, I have raised beds in addition, and you can't move them around. No. But I just put the compost in there and kind of mix things around. Are there some other, what kind of soil you should use in a container garden?
Probably a lighter soil, especially with something like this. If you want to be able to move it, you want to have a little bit of peat moss in there, perlite, things like that. There are some potting mixes that are lighter weight, and it also helps the roots to kind of get through. You don't want to go out and just dig something out of your yard and put it in. It's just going to end up being a big mass of soil. So.
Okay. What are some other things? I see you've got another container here on the floor, and I see some sort of an herb that's either parsley, cilantro, something like that.
This is, I believe it is the Italian flatleaf parsley. We also have a sage, a multicolored sage. There's so many different varieties of herbs. You can get different texture, different colors, so you can mix it up. And of course, you want to, whether you're doing vegetables or herbs, things that you're probably going to want to use in the kitchen. You can put this one, it goes right on the rail of your porch or your
it's
deck.
got that indentation.
Yeah, it fits right in.
That's
or you
a
can,
nice
or you can just
idea.
set it on the deck. We have oregano over here, which is a favorite.
Now, is oregano a perennial or?
That is a perennial.
Mine survived. I know
yeah.
mine's still good over the winter.
Yeah, it looks like that all year. Even the chives, and these are just starting to kind of come back. But they've been there all winter. Actually, the squirrels dug up pretty much everything else but those two. They managed to make it. Then we have a little annual, just a little mini petunia in there, just for a little color.
Nice to have some color, right?
And green onions, because you can just kind of stick those in there. They came from the grocery store. You think about it, they have roots when you buy them, so stick
so
them.
you didn't even buy them as plants.
No, I
you
didn't.
bought them as onions. Well, there's nothing wrong. I didn't think about
68 cents for 7 green onions.
Yeah.
And then you can just cut them off as you need them, and they'll regrow. Cut them again. Eventually, that bulb, that onion, is going to get a little bit bigger, and you can just start all over again. So
be a real onion. You can eat. That's the good thing about herbs and some of the greens is that when you thin the plants or when you need the space, they're edible. It's not like if you have to thin broccoli and it hasn't produced yet. You've got it right there. It's baby greens. You know.
Even with beets, some of the newer leaves, the baby leaves, you can eat those. So yeah, just pick a little off the side. Yeah.
That's great. Now, are there any particular varieties? Now, in the spring, we're better off with the lettuces than your kale or your spinach. Aren't those usually fall crops around here, or can you do it?
It's kind of the same thing. You want to start them early, and then as it gets hotter, they're going to start to fade. They don't like they're the cool season crops. So it's either early spring, late winter, or into the fall. So.
Okay, and your warm season stuff, your tomatoes, your peppers, what's the time of year we should be putting those in the ground?
Well,
assuming we buy plants, because I'm not good, seeds are hard.
Yeah, that's another subject. But for things like tomatoes, the magic date is on paper, April 15th. That's supposedly our last frost date.
I know that's the last frost date, but I've also had gardeners tell me, well, you really want to let it warm up a little bit more for it to grow.
Yeah, looking at the forecast, I've seen low temperatures under 50, and things like basil don't like that.
See, basil's I have to have tomatoes and
Yeah.
I have to have basil. And those are the two biggies for me.
Right, and peppers and basil are going to really want it to be a bit warmer before you put them in. Tomatoes, you can go ahead and put them in now, but if they get any cold, they're just they're going to have to use extra energy that they're not going to be able to use later on to make tomatoes.
So it may not kill them, it just isn't optimal to start too soon. And I know we're all eager. Everybody wants those fresh tomatoes. So maybe get one plant. Start with an early girl or something that would speed things up.
And that's something you can do. You can kind of Thomas Jefferson planted peas every Monday or lettuce every Monday. So you can do that with tomatoes. You can plant one, every 3 weeks or every month, and that way you'll have a constant supply into the fall until the first frost. So.
All right, now I'm not very good at lawns, but we've already gotten a couple questions on our Facebook, and so I'm going to hit you with some lawn questions. It's spring, and as you drive through, you see purple. Yes. One of them's a taller purple weed, and one of them, I know it's not the official term, but it's like a wild violet.
Yes.
And I don't mind that in some areas. It's low growing, it doesn't shoot up. And then there's all kinds of weeds out there now. What should we be doing?
Well, you can hand pull them. There's henbit, I believe that's the one that's the purple one, which the bees actually love, and the violets, which is a native plant, and the bees also love, and also they're a host plant for a particular butterfly. So
you're going to make me feel good about leaving those in my
yard. Yeah, you have variety. You've got to have that, diverse. But I know lots of people like to have a nice green lawn, and there are chemical solutions to that, but it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work. And a lot of money. And we spend more money on our lawns than we do on any of the ornamentals. So I would probably...
Or the vegetables, probably. Here we could be feeding ourselves as opposed to working so hard on that grass.
And there is a big movement for edible landscapes, because any of these plants, tomatoes, you can put it in a decorative. I mean, you can put it in a regular border bed. Okra is a beautiful plant. It's in the family of the hibiscus.
Really? I've never grown okra, and I love okra.
Yeah. Now that's one that you will have to pick. When it starts coming, you're going to have okra coming out of your ears. I wouldn't recommend planting more than 2 plants.
It's like zucchini. You've only got to plant one, and you've got enough for a lifetime,
for everyone,
for the whole season. Okay.
So.
Well, what other vegetables do you grow?
Right now, actually, I haven't grown potatoes since I was a kid, and I thought that is an easy thing to do. I got the potato bags, so that's another thing. I saw them at McDonald's. It's a bag like that. You plant your seed potatoes, you put a little soil in the bottom, plant your potatoes, and as they grow, they get about 6 inches tall. You put a little bit more soil and compost in there. They keep on growing. They'll flower, they'll die back, and then you'll have a bag full of potatoes, basically. The fun thing with the bags I bought is they have a little pocket on the side. So as they're growing, and you have the little seed potatoes, or the little new potatoes, you can reach in and kind of sneak some out of there while they're still growing.
Idea. I love new potatoes.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that. Purple, and they're all different varieties of potatoes. I mean, well, we see more now in the grocery stores, but I don't know how many different varieties of potatoes around the world. So
now, what makes you so interested in gardening? What got you hooked? Because obviously you've gone through the Master Gardener training, you're a volunteer. I mean, what is it that keeps you going?
I think it's that connection with generations. My mother and father were farmers, my grandparents were, and it's that connection between the earth and where our food comes from. We have a lot of kids that don't know that onions are a bulb, that they grow under the earth.
Or that potatoes grow. You know,
exactly.
They know French fries, but they have no idea what the plant looks like, because you don't see the whole plant in a grocery store.
Yeah. So I think we have a separation from what we eat and where it comes from and who's growing it and what they're putting on it, things like that. So. And it's just fun to be outside and see the diverse world that's out there, all the insects. And I get this question all the time: what do I do about deer? Or what do I do about squirrels? Or what do I do about those caterpillars? Like the parsley. Someone's going to freak out in the middle of the summer when they see caterpillars eating their entire parsley plant.
Oh my
And that is the black swallowtail.
It is. We had bronze fennel last year, and it's gorgeous. And it was a little patio plant, and it was like gone in a day. I mean, I looked at it, it was there, and the next day it was stalks. They had come in.
And wipe it out. Yeah. If you think hungry caterpillar.
Right, that's exactly.
They don't eat pizza, they eat fennel and dill and parsley. We have a very tall one at Bluebird, and they are already eggs. You can find the egg on the plant now, and they'll hatch out pretty soon and start eating. But then
that's good, you know. I mean, you might not get the fennel to cook with, but you are helping that ecosystem. You're helping the butterflies. It is,
and it actually makes for a stronger plant. If it's not totally overwhelmed, it's basically been pruned and fertilized at the same time, because they do. Yeah.
That's good. Well, now, okay, but if you don't want to feed the wildlife, my blackberries, my tomatoes, my blueberries, it's hard for me to get in and pick them before the birds do. Do you have any tips on that? Netting.
Netting. Actually, I have, and this, because I do the squirrels, I have a pecan tree. This is one thing that I've sent, and this is just a little piece. This comes in really long lengths. It's just crop cover, and you can put that over your lettuce or any of your crops, small seedlings. And if it's too heavy for them, you can put a little stake up in there to hold it up. But that'll keep the insects out. But the rain and the water can, or the water can get in, the sun can get in. If you have something like eggplant that's going to bloom, or tomatoes that are going to bloom, you do need to uncover it so it'll be pollinated. But that's a way to keep some of the insects, the squirrels, the rabbits, possibly the deer, though you're fighting against nature, and I think in those cases. But
you have to share a little bit.
Yeah, you do have to share. Plant more. I mean, if you're lucky enough to get a lot, you can always share with your friends. So. All
right. Now, if there's someone at home who's maybe watching on cable and they're not as physically active as they used to be, they're a little bit limited, what is an easy container that they could do, or what's kind of a first start in terms of having their food at their back door?
Really, any of these containers. This is I mean, if you look at the kind of plants that you want to put in there, a tomato's not going to have enough room in there.
That's not deep enough for a tomato.
But for something, a low, small-rooted plant like that, that would work.
And you can get these at
Actually, I actually made that one, but you can.
That's awesome.
But you can find them. It's just the pickets, the cedar pickets from fence pickets. So that's one picket right there. So.
And those containers keep some of the weeds down. I mean, there's still seeds that'll blow in, but
yeah.
It's a lot easier than when the
Exactly.
roots come up from underneath.
Exactly.
It limits things a little bit.
That's one of the nice things with the container gardening, and you probably have noticed with the raised beds, is that the soil you're putting in there is a little more. It's a little looser. It's a whole lot easier to pull weed out of that than it is out of the ground.
Oh my gosh, we were digging up the raised beds and found 2 bones that the dog had buried because, for an urban dog, you don't want to have to dig in all that clay dirt. No, you want to go to the raised bed where it's easy.
That might be an idea. I fence mine off. I have dogs also, and they're not allowed in there.
I may have to do that. Well, thank you, Rhonda. Now, if people have gardening questions, either lawn questions or vegetable gardening, Master Gardeners can help answer that. What is the best way to get in touch with you guys?
You can email. We have an email. I don't know if it's right off the top of my head.
We'll put it on the screen.
And also the phone number of the extension office, which is currently downtown Hampton right now, but is moving out to near Colonial Downs in the next month or so, the local bedding location. So.
And you guys do all this as volunteers?
That is correct. So part of our commitment to taking the class and learning as much as they can stuff in our heads. The first year it's 50 hours you give back, and then each subsequent year is 20 hours, and you have to take like 8 training hours, which is really easy to do. We have meetings that have training, an hour of training in them. So
that's
it's easy.
Great.
That part's easy to do. But we have people we have a new mother right now. We have people that have been, members for years and are not able to get out, but still do a lot of things. Go to the VA, go to the nursing homes, the schools. So it just depends on your ability and what you want and can do. So.
Well, let me, as a person who relies on you guys for your training and your advice and your volunteerism, thank you and the other Master Gardeners, because it's really a resource to have you guys in the community. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Can I mention my plant sale?
Yes.
Plant sale.
Yes, please do. I'm sorry.
Our plant sale is May 4th at Bluebird Gap Farm on Pine Chapel Road. I think it's 60 Pine Chapel Road. Saturday, May 4th from 9 to 2. We'll have an information booth. We'll have...
So we can ask you questions
That's
in
right.
person.
And if we don't know it, we can find it. But we'll have the Colonial Beekeepers. The Virginia Naturalist will be there talking about invasive plants, some of which are sold at area stores. Mm-hmm. And also we're going to have the PEC group, the Peninsula Chicken Keepers, will have a table there.
So that'll be fun. And I should mention there's a lot of code restrictions in Hampton. Unless you live on a pretty large plot of land, you cannot really have a backyard chicken coop. But it is an interesting movement, and I know the city's actually talking about potential for what people want the rules to be. Well, thank you very much, Rhonda. I appreciate it.
It was fun.
Look forward to hearing more about your garden. Thank you. And thank you. I hope you'll think about growing a little bit of vegetables in your backyard as well. And I hope we've given you some tips to allow you to do that. Thank you.